I saw a comment yesterday on a YouTube channel where somebody mentioned the fact that you should read the books by Robert Jordan, but whatever you do, avoid the live adaptation at all costs. I think they used the phrase with a 10-foot barge pole. When I saw that, I was like, ouch! Now, folks, right off the bat, what I will say is this. I was never aware of what this property was. Never heard of it. The only time I heard about Wheel of Time was when I went to Comic-Con this year in October. I saw a huge billboard for it, a huge poster, whatever it was. And I looked at it and I thought, yeah, I'm not sure what that is. I'll just keep on walking and minding my own business. It was literally that. There's been really no publicity for this show until I started seeing it popping up here and there and everywhere. It wasn't marketed very well. Now, what I'm going to say, this is going to be a reoccurring theme within my thoughts and opinions about the show here in this video, is that I cannot stop thinking about Game of Thrones. This TV series reminds you of GOT. Now, I know for a fact that Robert Jordan's novels came out in 1990. George R.R. Martin's didn't come out until 1996. So I understand that. But what it is, I actually blame Amazon and Sony behind WOT for pushing it as the next Game of Thrones. That's the problem they've got right there. In fact, quite a few outlets in the media have said the same thing as well. Now, I've not read their take on anything, like The Verge, they've talked about it. I just saw the headline, but before I saw the headlines, I was actually coming to this conclusion already. Now, the things that I don't like about the show, from the very opening scene, it gets the eyeballs rolling.
Many, many years ago, men who were born with great power believed they could cage darkness itself. The arrogance.
If I went to a Hollywood producer and said, look, here are the first 3 episodes for Wheel of Time, what do you think? I guarantee you the producer would just throw back in my face and said, look, this isn't Game of Thrones, there's no sex, there's no violence, there's no swearing, there's no characters I can relate to.
Call me old-fashioned, this won't work for me. Not in my office.
Rosamund Pike, she's an okay actress, she's not my favorite, but she's got a very stone cold persona about her. Now, whether Moiraine, the character she plays, is written that way in the books, I don't know, but you don't like her. I'm not engaged by her. If she's the protagonist, I don't feel any kind of rapport with her. Now, this is probably a really bad example, but Breaking Bad, when that came out in 2008, knew nothing about it, but the minute I saw Walter White, I liked the guy immediately. Yes, he went on to do despicable things in the next few seasons of that show. I still liked him, and that is a great writing from Vince Gilligan. That's what I attribute that to.
You're goddamn right.
But when it comes to this show, there is nothing that makes me go, I'm really, really invested. I mean, I'm sure the books have actually taken a lot of time to explain the mythology, the lore, the character building, but there is no character building here in the first 3 episodes. We see Moiraine coming in and she's protecting these 5 villagers. We know one of them is meant to be the Dragon Reborn. I think by the third episode, you kind of know who it's going to be. I think it's actually Perrin, because he's the guy that you think wouldn't be, but you know, this is the person that killed his wife by accident. And there again, he killed his lovely wife, Layla. We didn't even get a chance to know them. So as soon as a character appears, they get shunted aside, another character appears, and it's the same thing. There is no character development. And then you had characters like Eamon Valder of The Questioners. He's an interesting guy, a douchebag for sure, likes to burn women at the stake, hilarious. But why does he do it? We don't know. Will they explain that? Who knows? It's just hard to tell. Now, the thing is, Amazon and Sony are trying to make you forget Game of Thrones ever existed. Now, as I mentioned before, the reason why I love Game of Thrones is because, yes, it's adult content, but more importantly, you've got characters who you know and you get to know over a short period of time, and they really are ingrained in the psyche. Tyrion Lannister, Daenerys a Targaryen, Robb Stark, Ned Stark, Arya and Sansa Stark, to name but a few. Memorable characters. But when it comes to WOT, I'm struggling to remember memorable, catchy names. Randall Thor, I know who that is because that happens to be the name of a YouTuber I also follow. There's one called Naive, Perrin, Egweden, I think that's her name, the Gleeman. I can remember a few. Obviously Moraine, you can't forget her, can you? And then you had Lance Mondragon, who is the BFF for Moraine. Now there's a really weird scene where those two get into a hot tub time machine together, butt naked. No more female nudity, it's all about male nudity, top or bottom.
How dare you?
They get in together and she doesn't bat an eyelid. So are they lovers? Is this some custom that they do together? You see, the problem with this episode or this series, it doesn't explain anything. So I'm having a hard time being invested. It's really tough, guys. And look, at the end of the day, give me the first 7 seasons for Game of Thrones. Each day, every day, man, over this. I'm not going to call this show drivel. It's unfair for me to say that because it's only been 3 episodes. I will say the production value is pretty good for the most part. Like I said in the previous reaction to a trailer, it kind of reminds me of Fable. Maybe Dragon's Dogma in places. I mean, they talk about dragons here. The costumes are pretty good. But what takes me out of the experience, and I know this is going to be nitpicky for some of you for me to say this, but I am aware there is a green screen sometimes in some key action scenes. So yes, while there's a very pro-feminist message within Wheel of Time, which I think is ham-fisted and is not earned, there's no agency behind it.
This power, it's meant for women. And women alone.
But because it's now 2021 and Hollywood is pushing for agendas to be ticked in their various tick boxes and their mandates, that's where kind of a problem comes into this show for me to actually enjoy. I grimaced, I rolled my eyes, I thought, okay, let's see what comes up next. And I think one thing this show is very guilty of, characters just sit there for ages, they're very pensive, then they move on to the next scene. Now this reminded me of Joey Tribbiani from Friends, where he got his dream acting job in Days of Our Lives, and he was told by the director that he had to do fart acting, where you just kind of look into the distance, take a bit of a sniff, and then that's your emotions emoting. That's kind of what I saw in this show as well. Now the last couple of things I want to say about the Wheel of Time is that my spider senses went off the chart when I saw Rosamund Pike's name as a producer. Because when I saw that, I thought, you know what? This woman wants complete control of how this property should look. She wants to be very protective about it, even though she's not the person who wrote the novels. Let's remember that. So when I see an actors/producer is taking control of something, you know there's going to be an infinite amount of what they say goes, not the director. I kind of get that feeling. Millie Bobby Brown did this recently with Enola Holmes, a show that nobody wanted from a book that nobody wanted. And look, the other thing I'm going to say is this as well, right? Amazon and Sony, they are just looking for brownie points with this show, because every moment you're kind of reminded it's very diverse. They won't let you escape that fact. And I think diversity in agency has to be earned within entertainment these days. I saw a comment yesterday on a YouTube channel where somebody mentioned the fact that you should read the books by Robert Jordan, but whatever you do, avoid the live adaptation at all costs. I think they used the phrase with a 10-foot barge pole. When I saw that, I was like, ouch, it ain't gonna get any better. I'm sorry it won't. Now, if you're a fan of the books, and if you love this series so far with what you see, more power to you. That's all I've got to say. It is just not for me. I tried to get into it. I tried to see if I could like it. There were things in the trailer reactions I saw that I didn't really comment about, but they did make me cringe a whole ton. They really did. Now, one thing I'm going to say, the character of Nynaeve, I think I've got that correct. When we're introduced to her, it's an eye-rollingly inducing cringe moment. It really is. The fact that she can overcome an 8-foot Trolloc in a fight that lasts less than 2 minutes, I'm sorry, you can have suspension of disbelief in entertainment, but really, you got a pint-sized female up against an 8-foot Trolloc, and she overpowers him in a few swift moves. Nah, sorry. I mean, there's only so much believability you can throw out my way. So on that one, folks, if you enjoyed this video today, do give it a like. Do give it a dislike. Yeah, you can still dislike the video despite the fact that YouTube has removed that feature now. You can subscribe if you want to. You can unsubscribe, because I know some people here came to subscribe to my channel after they saw my reactions to the Wheel of Time trailers. But if you want to unsubscribe, guys, by all means, go ahead and do so. And yeah, you know what I said about Game of Thrones before? 1 to 7. It's actually 1 to 5. Those are the best seasons of that series. Anything after 5, it just dips down in quality for me. But hey, that's how it goes. So on that one, folks, look after yourselves, and I'll see you on the next video reaction, review, or rant.
Is she going to be all right?
I'm afraid the situation is much more dire than we'd expected. Your sister is suffering from a...
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.